So you're looking to get started in Steel Path. You have all the star chart completed, you have most of the story done, but you're just having a hard time killing enemies. I'm here to help you with those type of builds that help you do more damage in Steel Path just using easy to get mods instead of all the bells and whistles type mods and arcanes. This should be able to help you get through Steel Path baseline easily, have enough damage for most things. So I'm going to be showing you a build for Volt. He's a very good all-around Warframe. We're going to go over his abilities and what they do, just so you can get a clear of idea how to synergize them together and whatnot. Let's start with his passive. His passive will build up electricity damage bonus while you're running around. It caps out at 1000 extra damage. Now keep in mind this is not a percentage, and this is a flat amount of extra damage, which is a lot better because it scales with more multipliers. And it'll trigger on your next ability or weapon attack. Now keep in mind it resets it back to 0 when you use either a weapon attack or an ability. So this is really good for one-shot type weapons like sniper rifles or bows, or just casting your ability like Shock or Discharge. For his first ability, Shock, it applies a forced electrical status proc, which is an easy stun for a little bit of extra CC. It also does damage over time. If this is shot through his electric shield, it will do 100% more damage. So you can synergize with your electric shield on that. If it hits something that is being affected by Discharge, his 4 ability, it'll do an AoE effect. But the chain lightning effect from Shock does need line of sight, so do not forget about that. If something is hiding behind a pillar or something like that, you will not be able to hit it, at least with the chain. Speed is a really good buff. What it does is give you extra reload speed, movement speed, and attack speed. So if you're looking to do something with like quick melees, in and out, get it in there, that helps you. If you actually need to reload, some weapons have really slow reloads. The bonus reload speed helps out quite a bit there. And then just the general movement speed allows you to move out of way of fire. Just movement speed in general is like that. So Electric Shield, this is where his weapon platforming comes into play. So Electric Shield will increase the damage of whatever's being shot through it by 50% gun-wise for electrical damage. So 50% electrical damage, and it has 100% crit multiplier. Now these shields do stack with the electrical damage up to 6 times. So you got 50, 50, 50, 50, right? However, the crit damage portion does not stack up, so keep that in mind. But you can have 6 of these shields up, so that's 300% extra damage. Discharge is an AoE effect that can stun. If you hit something with it, it can discharge extra lightning arcs, so it'll keep stunning repeatedly for you. That way you can stay alive a little bit longer. It does give a little bit of CC. Mostly, hopefully you won't need a lot of CC, but that CC is very, very useful. So on to the modding for Volt. His first mod will be Flow. This will allow you to do more casts, etc. like that. More ways to cast Discharge if you need it in a panic or an emergency. His Shock also allows you to have more electric shields up at a quicker pace while still having a little bit of energy just in case if you need it. The next mod will be Adaptation. So you don't have to max this one out. It's just very helpful to max it out since it stacks up the damage reduction quickly. So every time you take a status effect in damage, so let's say you take impact damage, you will gain a certain amount of damage reduction for a certain amount of time. This will stack up to 90%. This is why you don't need to max it out, because it has a percentage cap on its damage reduction. You can get this mod from Arbitrations. I believe it is a drop chance, but you can also buy it with the Arbitration currency. and that should be really helpful along with other arbitration mods like Galvanized Aptitude, a lot of the Galvanized mods. The next mod will be Stretch. This is going to affect the range on your discharge and your shock. Also, it does affect range on your speed. However, it does not affect the range on your electric shield, so keep that in mind. Electric shield has a fixed amount of height and length. Same thing for when you pick it up, it has a fixed amount of height and length for that. Capacitance is his augment mod for his discharge. Now this is going to be really useful because there is a thing called shield gate in this game. You want to try and take advantage of that as much as you possibly can. So capacitance will give you 3% of your shield split evenly among allies. So if you can get your shield up to past its cap to where you start getting over shield, this will always give you a max damage immunity for shield gating. The next mod is just going to be Intensify. This will help your damage increase for discharge and shock. It also increases the amount of reload speed, movement speed, and attack speed you get for speed. It's mainly used for speed since the damage for discharge and shock can be kind of lackluster. You can get discharge damage to do quite a bit though, just because of your passive. This will not affect electric shield anyway. You don't get an extra electric damage increase. That one is always fixed. Continuity is going to be important because it affects your electric shield, it affects your speed, and it affects your discharge. You mostly want it for electric shield just so you can have an increased time on that shield since it's going to be your main defense. For speed, it's going to be very helpful because it's less times that you have to cast speed along with electric shield, because speed increases your reload speed, your melee attack speed, and your movement speed. It does affect discharge. It increases its duration of discharge's effect. That way you can have a higher chance of stunning or doing the AoE effect with shock. Vitality is going to be your next mod. This is just the easy HP increase. However, you can trade this out with redirection just so you can make your capacitance feel a little bit more stronger. That way you can have a little bit longer shield gating, because shield gating does scale with how much shield you do have. However, it's going to be a little bit harder getting your shield to its cap, but it will increase your overshield also. Your next mod is going to be Augur Secrets. This is just a little bit more extra power strength for your speed, essentially, and your discharge. But this can be traded out for Rolling Guard if you're feeling like you need a little bit more defense. Rolling Guard will give you damage immunity, but it does have a cooldown, so keep that in mind. Weapons you want for Volt are high crit chance, high crit damage type weapons usually. I chose the Nahruke. Nahruke is pretty easy to get. You get a little bit later on the story. And how I mod it is I put Point Strike in for the extra crit chance, Vital Sense for the extra crit damage. We're going to do Infected Clip along with Cryo Rounds for the Viral status proc, since Viral will increase the damage of your slash ticks. So Viral will increase direct damage to health, and slash bypasses armor, so that goes to direct damage on health. We should use Split Chamber because everybody always wants some extra bullets, or in this case arrows, to be fired at your enemies. And we will also have Serration for the extra damage, and Hellfire for the heat status proc, along with the extra damage also. Hunter Munitions is kind of a fill type mod, but it's pretty nice to have just for the extra slash ticks from the 30% chance of getting on a crit. Hunter Munitions is kind of a fill mod. If you don't have this mod, you can get the mod from Ghoul Bounties, which is an event that happens periodically. You can trade this out for Rifle Aptitude, just for the extra status chance for your Viral to trigger, your heat to trigger, and your status to trigger, or your slash to trigger. But other than that, Hunter's Munitions is a field mod. Get it when you can, type of deal. So let's say you got some of the mods that you needed from arbitrations with the Nadaruk for your rifle mods. You're going to be wanting a build similar to this one. The primary deadhead can come later, but galvanized chamber for the extra multi-shot, galvanized scope for the extra crit chance and the stacking crit chance. Same thing for galvanized chamber for the stacking multi-shot chance. Critical delay over point strike. I will show you where you can get critical delay. Vital sense for the extra crit damage. Rhyme rounds and malignant force for the viral and the extra dual stat of the toxin and status and the cold and status. And here I will show you the drops, where they drop at. And then galvanized aptitude will be over serration because, again, base damage mods, they have diminishing returns on them. Also with galvanized aptitude, with just 2 status effects on the enemy, I believe that is 160% extra damage. And then Hunter Munitions as before. Now, this weapon does have status, but the thing with status effect is if you mouse over status, you can see the actual percentage chances of these statuses applying. So viral is going to be up there and puncture is going to be up there, to where slash is going to be very bottom because its damage is really low. Now you could stack a bunch of slash damage mods, but since this slash's damage is so low for baseline, it's not even really worth it. It's better just to go with Hunter's Munitions. For your secondary weapon on Volt, I recommend the Atomos because later on you can turn this into an Incarnon form. I'm sure you're wondering how I have a high amount of crit chance with this weapon, and it is because I have the Incarnon form on it. However, you do not need to worry about the Incarnon form right now. You can get that later. That's later on in the Steel Path for the Duviri circuit. Right now, these mods will work for baseline Steel Path. You are going to want Hornet Strike for the additional base damage, Target Cracker for the crit damage, Pathogen rounds along with Convulsion, since this is pure elemental type weapon. You're not going to have any slash procs, so viral is not going to be as strong on this as corrosive with heat. The reason for corrosive is for the armor reduction, and heat further increases that armor reduction by 50%. Of course, that's just going to be a small amount, but it's still going to be helpful. You're also going to want Sure Shot for the extra status chance, Barrel Diffusion. So Barrel Diffusion will be a little weird on beam weapons, but right now it doesn't really matter. I can explain that later in a different video. But it's just, it will give you extra damage. And then Pistol Gambit for the extra crit chance. This is probably one of my favorite weapons. It is very strong, especially once you get the Incarnon. So there is one thing, is if you decide to trade out Sure Shot for Galvanized Shot, the direct damage buff will only work with the beam portion. Once you get the Incarnon, it turns into an AoE type weapon. It will not work for the AoE damage on the weapon, but it will work for the beam part. Just keep that in mind. For the in-game Atomos build that I use, and this is assuming that you're going to get the Incarnon on it, I will use Jolt and Pistol Pestilence for the corrosive trigger. Here are the drop rates and where you can get them from. You can use regular heated charge for the extra heat damage. Galvanized Shot, so again, Galvanized Shot will work for the beam portion, but not the Incarnon form's explosion portion. The base bonus damage only works with direct damage, sadly. Merciless Gunfight for the extra crit chance and the punch through. However, you can trade this out for magnetic might instead, for the magnetic chance and the extra crit damage. Mostly you're doing it for the crit damage, but those bonuses are quite nice. Creeping Bullseye. This is going to be a negative fire rate, but it gives you 200% crit chance. Here are the drops for that. And Target Cracker for the crit damage. You don't need to have the prime, you can use the regular Target Cracker. And then Galvanized Diffusion for the extra damage on that too. And Cascada Empowered. This is going to give you extra damage for how many heat triggers you get, or heat status effects are triggered. This is going to help out a lot with the base damage too. So the melee weapon I chose for Volt would be the Siam. It's fairly easy to get. You get it from doing the Duviri stuff. It's only 50 Pathos Clamps and obviously Duviri Mats that you need to grind out to get to this weapon, but it is well worth it. The reason I chose this melee weapon is because it shoots out a wave on heavy attacks, and those count as projectiles, which means your electric shield will also trigger the 50% extra electricity damage along with the 100% increased crit damage. So for the mods, any stance mod will work. I chose Blind Justice specifically because one of its combo attacks, when you are blocking, you can hold down E if you're on PC, or hold down your melee attack, and it will do forward slashes, and those are forced slash procs. Then I chose Condition Overload for the base damage, Fever Strike along with North Wind so you can get the viral, Organ Shatter for the crit damage, Shocking Touch for the electricity damage. This will help on later once you get a arcane called Melee Influence. The crit chance mod, True Steel, Focused Energy for heavy attack efficiency and electricity damage. So what heavy attack efficiency does is it prevents a percentage of some of your combo counter to be used. So I believe focus energy is 40%. And I also did pressure point. So usually you do not want to use Condition Overload with pressure point, both because they're both base damage mods technically, and they're usually base damage has diminishing returns on it. However, the Siam's Wave attack, it is added as a multiplier instead of additive, which makes it a little bit better. So running both of these mods is kind of okay to run. For the Siam, I use Blind Justice, Condition Overload, Virulent Scourge, Voltic Edge, so you can get the gas status. This is going to be a little bit different. Galvanized Steel, Vicious Frost, and I will show you where the Virulent Scourge, Volcanic Edge, and Vicious Frost will drop right now. Then Galvanized Elementalist, Galvanized Reflex, and Pressure Point. Same thing for the regular build, just with the additional Galvanized mods. Now you're probably wondering, I'm using Melee Influence, and Melee Influence only triggers off electrical status effects. And I don't have any electric in the build. We'll see, this is where your electric shield actually comes into play. Since it applies electrical status effect, that means you can have these other elemental status effects on your weapon. So I can run with gas and cold damage, for instance, because it's going to have an electrical attack coming from the electrical shield since it counts as a projectile. And when it passes through the shield, you got your electrical status. So for the pet, you want to take the Taxon. It was pretty easy to get. This is mostly because it's super easy to get. I think you just get it from a conjunction. You want, for the mods, you're going to want Molecular Conversion for the shield regen, Guardian for the burst shield regen. Fired Up, you might not have this one. If you do, this is going to allow your Taxon to do more heat damage since it has a scaling heat damage increase. Regen, so it can recover itself a little bit quicker. Obviously vacuum, so you can have a bigger pickup range of items. Now, Contagious Bond and Duplex Bond are going to be the ones that you mostly want to get. Here's where you can get them from. Synth Deconstruct is kind of a fill mod. It gives your Taxon more armor when you pick up a health orb. And retargeted, so it has something to target. You want to make sure that it's actually attacking. Now I do have one mod missing on here, but that can be a fill mod. That can be for like extra armor from metal fiber. It could be extra health. It could be the repair kit. It's your choice on what you want it to be. For the Taxon weapon, I suggest the Artax, mostly because it comes with it. I know the Vertiglass is the top weapon for Sentinel pets right now, but that one requires some extra things to get, to where the Artax is just very easy to get. It already comes with it. I recommend getting Speed Trigger, using Rhyme Rounds with Malignant Force so you can have extra status chance along with viral triggers. Sinister Reach is kind of a fill mod, but that one will help out its beam range by quite a bit. It's like about half or 1/3 of its extra range for it. Thermite Rounds for the extra heat and status. Hellfire, just so you can get more status chance procs for heat. Rifle Aptitude and Serration. You don't have to use Serration. You could trade it in for Split Chamber or something else. I'll show you where you can get the Rhyme Rounds, Malignant Force, and Thermite Rounds right now. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully this will help you get your foot in the door for Steel Path and everything further on for that. If you liked the video, hit that like button. If you didn't like it, you can hit that dislike button. If you have any ideas or anything that I could change in these builds, pop it down in the comments. I have a Discord server. I also have a stream that you guys can comment in. If you have any more questions, you can ask me there also. Those will be in the description below. And I'll see y'all later. Peace.